What if the reason that you're so exhausted lately isn't because of the anxiety itself, but all of the energy that you're using to fight the anxiety? Welcome back to Cozy with Chelsea, a podcast to nourish your mind, body, and soul. I am Chelsea, your host, and today we are talking about how to stop fighting your anxiety and how to instead let it be. And before we start today's episode, I just want to take a moment to mention Brew, which is a supplement that I use all of the time. It's basically hot cocoa. It's a powder that I mix with steamed almond milk, and I actually do it before bed. It helps me sleep. Also helps me with any anxiety that might come up. So topical, but I use it all the time and I think it's great. It has magnesium, it's all natural supplements. So if you want to try it out, you can use my code, which is Cozy with Chelsea, when you check out. I will also put it in the show notes. And if you use that code, you will get 15% off. So if you want to, check it out. All right, back to the episode. This is something that I struggled with for a long time and I was just speaking to somebody about, which inspired the episode today. And for a long time, I had really bad anxiety where I would have kind of like periods of it. And it was so intense that I wasn't able to sleep. I would wake up in panic, unable to go back to sleep. And I realized through a lot of work on myself and working with the help of others that the constant trying to fight it or push it down or get rid of it was actually just making the entire situation worse. And I think it's so funny. One of the biggest revelations I had was just to allow, for me, oftentimes it was like anxiety, panic, dread. And if I just allowed it to be there, hear what it had to say, and realize that it was actually just a form of protection. I was trying to protect myself from something. Perhaps it was danger that wasn't really there, but reminiscent of my past. And once I had that revelation that I could just let it be, the funny thing is it ended up softening for me. So I would like to get into that today, what it looks like, why we do that, and how to kind of switch our perspective on it. And I like to think about this in a way, in a metaphor, if you will. Let's compare it to weather, right? If you have some massive dark thunderstorm coming in, aka your anxiety or whatever that heavy emotion is, you cannot just shoo the clouds away or pretend that the rain isn't there. But if you realize that you are the sky and the sky doesn't fight the storm, you simply have to hold the hurricane, the tornado, and yeah, the storm is intense, it's heavy, it's loud, but the sky remains unharmed. If you can identify as the sky and your emotion is the storm, which will pass, you can create space for that weather, that emotion to pass without breaking you. It's very common for us to fight bad feelings. And the reason is there's a lot of fear involved, right? When those heavy emotions come up, they don't feel good. Right? They don't feel good. Your heart is racing, you're sweating, you're panicking, and we're afraid that they'll swallow us whole. And we often turn to numbing, right? Numbing is a way that we do it, and there's just a lot of resistance. And resistance is actually causing additional suffering. We just don't know that we're doing it. Now, some science behind that is when we resist an emotion, we're actually activating the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight response. So this is creating a cascade of stress hormones that actually amplify the exact feeling that we're trying to get rid of. I don't know if you guys have heard the phrase, what we resist persists, but there's a reason that we have that phrase. They've actually done brain scans on this to show that when we try to suppress anxiety, the amygdala, which is our fear center, becomes more active, not less. And it's also just energetically draining, right? If you've been through this, you understand that. The more that we are focusing on trying to resist the emotion and it keeps coming up and we're trying to push it down, come up, push down, come up, push down, over and over and over again, we're expending so much energy on that and it isn't producing the results that we want. And that is why we're exhausted, tired, and it's not working. Now, what most of us don't realize is that the discomfort of the anxiety isn't actually the problem. It is our relationship to the discomfort that causes the suffering. And then what ends up happening is we do a lot of numbing. And I did this for many years, right? When we think that we can't handle a feeling, we reach for something, anything to make it stop. This is where we scroll on social media, we binge watch shows, you overwork to the point of burnout, you're online shopping or even online window shopping, you're checking your phone compulsively. And it's not that these are like bad things that you're doing, but it's problematic when we use it to avoid feelings. And then we have heavier numbing agents, which I've also used in the past, which is alcohol, drinking, substances. It also goes into food restriction or excess, right? Or excessive exercise. These are all just more intense versions of the same strategy, which is I don't want to feel this feeling right now, so I'm going to be doing something else. But we all know that the numbing doesn't actually work. And every time that we do choose to numb, we are training our nervous system that we are not able to handle that feeling or that it's too dangerous to face. We are reinforcing that belief, that pattern that I cannot handle this. And that is why learning to not fight the anxiety or whatever that feeling is revolutionary. Because when you can actually sit with the discomfort, you can prove to yourself that you can handle it. And you begin to trust yourself. And trust is the foundation to healing. Now, let's be clear on what not fighting actually looks like. It is not just like giving up or giving in to the feeling, and it's not about becoming passive or letting anxiety run your life. It's not any of those things. It's about changing your relationship to the feeling. So instead of I can't let myself feel this, it's more of a this is uncomfortable and I can handle the discomfort. I'm going to let this move through me like a thunderstorm. And that's really just the irony, you know, and it's beautiful in a way. But when you give anxiety permission to be there, it often softens on its own. I know that might sound unbelievable, but I have experienced it, and so have many of my clients. And it's not just that you tricked yourself, it's that you removed the fuel that kept that feeling burning. There was a moment when I was going to bed and the anxiety was happening again, and I just let myself lay there, feel the emotion, notice what was happening, and I just allowed it to be. I thought, you know, this is serving me in some way. There's something that it's trying to tell me. And if I could just take a moment, take 60 seconds and sit with it, hear it, acknowledge it, and then instantly I felt a release in my body. And this is something that I still do to this day, because those feelings, it's not like they're going to go away forever. I mean, that would be great if they did, but life happens, things happen. And when it happens, instead of resisting or fighting, if I allow it, I move through it so much easier. Okay, so how do we actually do this? This is my cozy approach, which is radical permission. So instead of thinking, how do I stop this feeling? Instead, think, can I be with this for 60 seconds, right? We don't have to sit there for hours with the feeling, because ultimately that's not even what's going to happen anyways. So if we can just say, all right, I'm going to sit with this for 60 seconds. And then I want you to name the feeling. If we can name it, we can tame it. So you could say, all right, I notice that there's tightness in my chest. My throat feels like I can't swallow. And I see you, anxiety. You are welcome to sit here with me. So if we can move from being in the emotion to observing the emotion. So instead of I am anxious, I'm noticing anxiety in my body. So what you can do is you can actually set a timer if you would like. I don't personally do this, but if maybe that calms you down a little bit, you can have a timer for 60 seconds, because research actually shows that the physiological response of an emotion when it's not resisted will typically crest and begin to fade within 60 to 90 seconds. And then if you can just explain or narrate what's happening without judgment. So you can just describe what you're experiencing. So again, I notice my heart is beating faster, my palms feel warm, there's a flutter in my stomach, whatever those feelings are. And this creates distance between you and the sensation. And then if we can anchor back into the present. So if you could I like to put my hand on my heart and one on my stomach. And if you want, you can add in, naming 5 things that you see. You could do things that you hear, smell, things you can touch. And then once those 60 to 90 seconds have passed, just check in with yourself. And often you will notice that the intensity has softened. Again, not because you did anything to fix the emotion, but just because you stopped resisting it. I also like to ask myself, what are you trying to protect me from? Or what purpose is this serving? Because I have found often that feeling is coming up for some reason. Maybe I've stepped out of alignment with myself in some way. Maybe I'm allowing something to happen that I don't want to happen. And if we can take a look, this is like a step further, but if we can take a look at what that emotion is trying to tell us and just actually listen to it, this will help a lot too. It's really just a self-compassion piece, right? If we can just be with ourselves, allow the feeling to be there, try to understand what purpose it's serving. This is what's going to help you soften. And this is really important if you are sober curious or really trying to remove any of those numbing techniques. Like even if you're just trying to be off social media less, or reduce drinking, or reduce online shopping, whatever that is, because often we'll find that once we start removing that numbing agent, the feelings might come up a little bit more. This is a great tool to use if you're on that path. It was something that when I stopped drinking, it was like, all right, I'm here with the emotion, I'm present with it, and I'm gonna have to deal with this instead of using something to make it go away temporarily and often come back worse. So I hope that's helpful. I hope it's something that you're able to integrate into your anxiety or heavy emotion healing practice. It's something that I do all the time and it works incredibly well, again, for me and for clients. And if you can just remember, we are not trying to resist it and are also not trying to change it or fix it. We are just being with it. I also want to let you know that I will not be having an episode next week. I will be on my honeymoon. So I'm taking a break myself from social media and posting and working, and I'm very excited. And funnily enough, that's also what's making me cozy this week. I am leaving in a few days. I will be on the beach. I will be watching whales. I will be eating really good food. And I will be sitting with whatever emotions come to me, and hopefully they are mostly joy, considering what I'll be doing. All right. Thank you all for listening. If you can comment if you try this practice and let me know how it worked for you, and also let me know what's making you cozy this week. All right. Stay cozy. See you next week. Bye.